well to send a massive thank you for agreeing to do this. I know all of you are so like crazy busy with obviously graduating and kind of starting this new role in the new academic year. I just wanted to check in and ask you guys like how you're feeling about this kind of new changes and everything going on in your lives. So Chike, I want to start with you. How are you feeling?
I feel good. I'm a bit stressed usually because of, we have a lot going on in terms of the job, and we're preparing for freshers, we're preparing for welcome week, so there's a lot that goes on, and we're involved a lot doing freshers week, so there's a lot of stress involved. But at the same time, I am kind of excited because this is my second year as a sub, so this is gonna be my last freshers. So I'm trying to take it all in.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much.
Does it feel like it's gone fast? Like, is this your obviously 4th year at Bournemouth? Is that right? Or?
This is my 3rd year at Bournemouth.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna be my 3rd year at Bournemouth because I did a masters for 1 year.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's gonna be my 3rd year. It's gone pretty quickly, to be honest, especially my master's course. Like, it was just 1 year, but it felt like a breeze, to be completely honest. So it goes really quick. So I'm just trying to take this moment and just, take everything in, because in a year I'll be done. So yeah.
Norah, how about you? How are you finding this moment in time?
So if you asked me last week, I was actually pretty chill, but this week I'm starting to be a little bit overwhelmed with everything. But I think it's a good overwhelm because I still feel like determined and ready for the year. But I kind of forgot how much my role does over the summer. So I have a lot of committees coming up, and I'm looking forward to them.
No, I'm definitely getting this feeling from both of you. This it's nervous but exciting, and I feel like I know myself. Like when you've got a bit of pressure, it's like I don't know. You're lying there awake at night a little bit, and you're like, oh god, I got this. But it's it's also that excitement. You've got that sense of purpose and things. It's really nice.
Yeah.
How about you, Fatima? How are you finding this?
So yeah, it's mine and Holly's first term as full-time officers. But initially, I was looking forward to having students on campus, but now it's just a little bit nerve-wracking thinking of the amount of students that are going to come in. They're going to come into our office, which is always nice because I think I'm a little extroverted, but I feel like I will be overwhelmed, and I have to just brace myself for that. But it is exciting because freshers and everything else right around the corner.
No, definitely. How about you, Holly? How are you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I think I'm definitely feeling the same as the others. We've kind of been eased in so far, especially being a new officer, but it's really ramping up, and over the next few weeks our calendars are very full, so I think it would just be trying to manage it, but also making sure we do try and enjoy it as well and make the most of what we're getting involved in, really.
Yeah. Definitely. And I feel like there's so much that happens at university, but it is such an experience, and you guys have such a unique position to see university in this new way that potentially students don't get to see. So just before we get into the main questions, I'm curious to build off what you said. Is it weird being in your role, seeing everything? So, for example, when you were first coming in and as a fresher, is it weird seeing it from the perspective you're in now, and more of a bigger role than it was coming in? Do you kind of look back on it and you're like, oh my god, this was so different to how it was when I first joined? Is there anything you see differently being in the role you are now compared to when you started? Or?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's been quite eye-opening kind of being on the inside of it, and being in the meetings, deciding kind of what's happening, or what the student issues are, looking at different feedback, and definitely from going in as a student wide-eyed and not really knowing too much about it, is really interesting to kind of know all the ins and outs and all the different departments that come together to kind of make freshers and all of the other stuff along the year.
Yeah, definitely. And the thing I love about you guys and your role is that you've been through Bournemouth University. You've seen it as a student and you've experienced things. So when you make decisions, and I've seen obviously your campaigns and things you want to do, you can tell it's coming from the heart of a student who generally wants to help the people around them have an even better experience. I really like that, and we have that at Bournemouth University. So I want to take you guys back to day one at university, going back to your 18 or 19-year-old selves. What were you feeling kind of lead up to university, and was there anything you were nervous or anxious about? And how did that manifest when you arrived at university? Was the things you were kind of nervous about before, were they as nerve-wracking when you really got into the university experience? Holly, I'm going to go to you first.
So I think for me it was kind of a really apprehensive time, because my first year was during COVID, so the whole kind of welcome week didn't really happen, and even when I moved into halls, it was very much you can't step too close to somebody else, or only a certain amount of people can move in. So straight away it was completely different to what I was expecting. And although I was excited to be joining, and I was enjoying buying stuff from my room and all of that stuff. When it actually came to moving in, I was super nervous, and even just the thought of like, how am I gonna like be able to make friends? Like, will my flatmates like me? All of those kind of things were definitely at the front of my mind, and just thinking about being in like a new area, but then also feeling like quite small just in your hall's room kind of thing. So it was kind of feeling like you're in like a big place, but also feeling quite small at the same time, I would say.
No, I definitely get that. I came in at a similar point. So you said about how you're kind of feeling going into it. I'll be honest with you, I had some hard times in the first year of getting used to things, and especially in COVID, it was a really hard point to begin uni. How did you find that kind of, obviously, in the first couple of months? Like, what things allowed you to kind of, obviously, you made it through, you got through that first year, and you're at the point you're on now. How did you kind of do that? How did you find the things to kind of lean on, and what things helped you with, I guess, your mental health, but just feeling a bit more confident at university?
I think, so definitely starting off when I first moved into halls, trying to just break the ice with my flatmates, I felt really helped, because then I thought at least then I know somebody, or I know like some familiar faces. So I definitely made an effort to make sure I went in the kitchen when other people were there, or we try and do group things like going to Asda. But I think it was a struggle with our course being online, because it's super awkward anyway, being on a Zoom call, and then like there's no one showing their faces. So joining like the course group chats and trying to make an effort to speak in there, or kind of be present in your lectures and in your group chats, so like others kind of know your face as well, or know who you are. I feel like that helped. And then I think over time we kind of were speaking more in our like course group chats, and we're like, oh, let's actually meet up. So I think definitely kind of pushing yourself to make the effort to meet other people definitely helped, rather than just being like, oh no, I can't, I'm going to stay in my room. I think just trying to get yourself out there really helps, because I think it's even more nerve-wracking if you've not been to anything, and then you're like, oh my god, everyone knows each other, I don't know anyone. So yeah, I would say that.
Definitely. So we obviously started in COVID, so it was a bit different, but I thought they're really relatable things to people, for example, joining now at university. Like, there is that kind of, like, I don't know, the biggest thing I think I've learned is like everybody is at the same point. Like, no, like, even if some people know a couple people before, it's like people still want to get to know you. Yeah. And one of the things I've really found, especially at Bournemouth, like, there's so many, we're going to talk about it a bit later, but there's so many incredible opportunities to really find your people and to feel at home. And there's that, I feel like there is that season of like, where you're obviously moving from your hometown to university, and you can kind of have those kind of, I guess, growing pains of kind of change. But I think there is really, and especially through the student union, there's so many great opportunities to find your people, to really find yourself, I feel, at the same time. So Fatima, how about you? How did you find the kind of beginning stage, and was there anything you were already nervous about, having kind of internalizing before you started university?
Yeah, so before I came, I actually came like on the day of the orientation. That's when my flight was, and that's when my flight like landed. It was on the same day, midnight, and it was very overwhelming. I'm like, how am I going to settle in, accommodation, everything else? Am I going to make friends? I had that going back. I'm like, I'm going into a whole new country, and I don't know how the culture is going to be like. Even though I was in Dubai and it's almost as multicultural and everything else, it's still very nerve-wracking, like, am I going to find my people? How are people like over here? But I think it's just, even things like with my accommodation, I had like a whole situation with my landlady, and I had to really immerse myself in figuring out the legalities of things like that. So I think for me, most times I can say that I was pushed into the student union without wanting to really, like, of course, like every other student, I was going to be slowly instated into how the student union, everything is going to work. But because of that landlady situation, I had to go talk to advice, and I think that's when it all began, like how I kept having to go to the student union building and seek help, and I pushed myself after that to like make sure other students who came as international students felt more at ease in some sort of way, where I could possibly like signpost them. And then that led me to, I can talk about that later, but that led me to also take my part-time role, which is a liberation officer role.
Yeah, how did you find it? Like, so I have a close friend who's an international student. How did you find that? Obviously, we're talking about the first couple of like months. Like, how did you find that? Was it hard, kind of settling in? Did you find your people straight away? What was that kind of early process like?
I think like I said, I actually immerse myself very quickly. I think also it helps that like I'm a people person, and I actually feel terrible for people who find it hard to really get out of their bubble. I think we should have more spaces for them, and I think we do to a certain level with like faith and reflection, where there's more quiet spaces. But yeah, coming back to the question about how, wait, I lost my train of thought.
That's okay, yeah. So kind of talking about the early stages of university and stuff.
So there were like speed friending events when I first joined. There was the Global Cafe. So I was able to find friends quite easily in that sense. Like there are a lot of opportunities within uni in the first 2-3 weeks to make friends, and you just need to find those events and show yourself. And I know it can be a lot when you're going as one person. You're not like taking your friends and all of us going to an event together. It's just solely you, but people there make you feel comfortable. There'll be icebreaker sessions, there'll be things of, the ones organizing the event, they're very welcoming, so it shouldn't be that difficult making friends in BU. If you have to put that little effort, like be a little more proactive, but yeah, it shouldn't be that difficult.
Definitely. How about you, Norah? How did you find the kind of the early stages? Was there like, you know, for example, 1 or 2 things that you were particularly nervous about kind of on your way to university or the week before?
So when I started uni, I think the one thing that I definitely wasn't nervous about for some reason was like meeting people, because I'm always like extroverted and bubbly. I was like, oh, it'll be no problem, I'll actually settle in. But turns out that was like one of the hardest things for me, not in the sense of speaking to people, but just like finding my people. Luckily for me, like on my course, the friends I met there, they're still my friends to this day. But I think like settling in to uni was a complete shift, and I don't think I really realised how different it would be. I was slightly like naive to the whole thing that I'm moving away from my family, and I'm from like a really big family, so I constantly have people to speak to. When I was at uni, I was like, okay, I've met like 1 or 2 people, but I don't have constant people to speak to, and like it was completely different. I don't know why younger me thought it wouldn't be completely different. And as well, another thing that happened to me when I moved into uni is I couldn't move into the halls because student finance didn't give me money.
Oh, no.
So I was like, I'm just going to have to find some random place with some random people and a landlady, and that's what I did. And that was completely fine, but I did still feel really detached from like the rest of the students because people had halls, and even though some people didn't make friends with their hall mates, it was still the fact that you lived in halls with other people. But I think when I first started uni, I now appreciate the whole like stepping out of your bubble and stepping out of your comfort zone to meet people, because I think even if you're the most extroverted person, you still need to step out of that comfort zone just so you can meet the right people.
Definitely. There's a couple of things I want to build off what you said. Firstly, the thing you said about the student finance, like being completely honest, like we're always going to have our different areas where we need to improve on. And I think the fact that you were able to address some areas that you thought like, oh, this could have been better, it shows your kind of insights going like, okay, I know what obviously you were a student, you can come in with that perspective of, okay, I know I want to change, or I know I want to improve. And I think sugarcoating everything isn't always the solution to improve. I think sometimes accepting the areas of like, okay, this wasn't as good, but we can make it better. And it's like when you have that full kind of spectrum of honesty of, you know, the kind of Bournemouth University, but looking at it like, okay, we love Bournemouth and this is the place, so let's look at where we're at and then let's look at where we want to be, and let's look at the steps. And also you talked about that really hard time, like what do you think, what's the biggest thing you took away from that really, like that hard time of not being in halls with everyone else, of being by yourself, having to organise that? How do you think you grew as a person?
I think that it led me to the first steps of looking for like general help, because I am very much as I'm extroverted, I am very reserved. I keep things to myself. So I really already had like great friends from like before, and I would just speak to them, and we would try to make plans and stuff like that. Like I think in one way I did grow from just like asking for help, but I also grew into like just opening my eyes to just different like situations as well. when I was younger as well, I always used to think like, oh, I know that as soon as I meet someone there, I'm going to be friends with them forever. Like, I know my people. Then later on, I realized that I don't always know. I'm not always right. And some of the people that I made friends with, I'm not friends with to this day. And it's just like, it's made me learn that, like, don't take people at face value as well. But you're going to meet so many different people at uni that regardless, there's just going to be people you don't get along with, and there's people you'll get along with, but then you'll not get along with in the future. And I think that's just something that you have to take from life.
Yeah, and I think that's fine as well, because I feel like even though you might meet people and they might not necessarily be there for the entire of your life, they're probably there for a portion of your life.
Yeah, exactly.
So
yeah.
that's also something to take away, I think.
No, definitely. And I feel like it's like, for me, university has been the biggest character building experience I've had, like, ever. Like, I've said this to my mates before, but it's like, we've looked at photos of us on like the first day of uni and looked at us now, like, we look so differently, and we're just completely, what happened over the last 3 years, like, it's moulded us into the people we are. So Chike, I want to ask you, how was it, like, obviously we talked about the nerves and the beginning of uni. What was it like for you kind of joining? Where are you coming from, and what was kind of your entrance into university, and where were you living? What was that kind of early experience like for you?
Yeah, okay, so I'm going to start with, so I came to Bournemouth University for my master's, so I did my undergrad in Nigeria, because I'm Nigerian student, I'm international. I did my undergrad there for 4 years. So coming into the UK, first of all, it was very nerve-wracking, and because I had built like connections with, like, I had friends, I had connections, strong connection I had built, so I was leaving that entirely away to come to a new place. I wasn't sure what was going to happen. There's that uncertainty, because you hope for the best, but you really don't know what's going to happen. And I think also another element of being like a black person, because back home in Nigeria, everyone is black, so like I'm just like everyone else. But coming here, when I crossed into you can become a black person all of a sudden. So there was that kind of weird thing in the back of my head, that transition was kind of iffy. But yeah, coming here, I felt really isolated for a long while, I'm not gonna lie. But I think one of the first things I did that really helped my journey was reaching out and asking for help. I remember the first day I came to campus doing freshers, I was so confused, I had no idea what was happening, because that was the same day I just got into the UK. So it was very nerve-wracking. I remember I went to the student union and I met a member of staff, and they directed me to the FTOs, because at the time there was an FTO who was Nigerian as well. So they directed me to that FTO, and I spoke with them, and they were able to clarify a lot of things for me, and that kind of eased me into, I felt like, okay, yeah, there are people here who understand my experience, who understand me, and that was my introduction to the student union in general, and like the FTO world. I think that kind of like ripple effect into me being an FTO myself. So yeah, I'd say that the transition was difficult. Even with my course, there was it was a small course with like about like 10 or 12 students on the course. So it was really weird being in a room with few people but still feeling isolated. But so I think one of the main things with isolation is just give it time. Over the couple months we're doing the course, we'd have like group assignments. From there you form connections with people, you get talking, and you find out that even though it seems like you don't have anything similar with this person, you do have a lot in common at the same time. So it's just, I think I just gave it time, and I kept myself open to the experience, and that really helped me like find my people and find my way around. And also another thing I did was, I think Fatima touched on that earlier, was a global cafe. I found that really, really helpful. That's the one how I met Fatima in the first place. So essentially it's like a gathering for international students where it really is very informal, very casual. There's tea, there's coffee, there's snacks. You just come there and you could just see a random person and just say hi and start a conversation like that. And I found that really helpful, because at the same time, as much as I'm trying to like integrate into a new environment, it's also important for me to find people who have similar experiences as mine. That really helps with like making you feel less alone. So that was personally for me how I was able to like battle the student loneliness and really like find my way around.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for sharing that. And I really love the kind of drive you have. I think the fact we talked about it before, but the fact you guys started your university experiences, you had those very different experiences, but there's really kind of common things in that. There's things of feeling alone, there's the feeling of needing help. And I love what you guys are representing and really standing for. The fact that there was someone who stood there for you in that position and gave you that kind of like stability and that feeling of feeling seen. And the fact that you're in the position you are now, you're really, it's almost like a full circle moment there, that's what I was going to say. Like, and it's so cool is that something you really want to drive to do in your role? Like, what do you want to do to make people feel feel seen and understood who were in the same position you were in?
Yeah, definitely. One of my main manifesto points, for example, I have a lot on there, but one of the main ones is, international student support. Because at the same time, even though I was able to, I think a lot of the FTs have touched on this as well, put myself out there. I understand that not everyone feels comfortable to do that. And that's fine, because we all have different experiences and we all have different personalities. And I feel like no one person should be disadvantaged because of their personality traits. So one of my main things for the year is to increase international student support at the student union and at the university, because when you look at it, international students, they take such a risk coming here, because they're leaving everything they know, their family, their friends, and they're coming into a place that they are not sure will work out for them. So I think that there is a responsibility on our part to make sure they feel as welcome, they feel that they have a home here. Could be a home for them away from home. So yeah, like it's just like you said, it feels very full circle, and it feels like the support I met, even though it was just a conversation with like a Sam the first day here, like just that one conversation. We didn't even talk about it that was too deep, to be honest. It was just very surface level thing, but it went a long way making me feel, welcome here. So I would really like to be that for other people. So yeah, that was one of my main motivations for running for this position, and I'm glad that I'm in that position to do that for someone else.
That was amazing. So I want to talk to you guys, like, you obviously mentioned these different feelings of overwhelm.
Yeah.
And you talked about the overwhelm you experienced first at university. But I want to kind of so there's this thing, we talked about it before, about this idea of wobble week. And this idea of, you've gone through freshers has been amazing, you've been going out, you've had so many opportunities to meet people, but then freshers is gone, and I think the toll, for example, going out a lot and having a lot of alcohol, that can have an impact on your mental health, and it can make you feel less stable, and obviously we talked about this idea of finding your new home, and obviously I think for myself at 18 I was still finding myself, I didn't fully know who I was, and that kind of period of wobble week, it's called wobble week because you can feel like you're wobbling, you can feel like the ground below your feet is just crumbling away and you don't know where you stand. And I feel like myself and quite a few of my friends I've spoken to have had that feeling of what do I do? Do I drop out? Do I leave university? Is university not for me? And you obviously talked about kind of staying with it and finding your feet. But I wanted to talk to you, whether it's that experience of wobble week or any other time at university, did you ever experience a feeling of overwhelm where potentially you thought about dropping out, or maybe you just felt like, how do I keep everything kind of together? And we talked about help as well. Was there any options in university that you were able to go to get support with this and get help? So Fatima, I want to turn to you first and ask you this question. What do you think?
Yeah, so like you said, initially it all feels of course, as much as I was overwhelmed coming in, when I made friends, it was that whole social space. In the evenings, I would be going out. But again, with that came managing my part-time job, which was 20 hours a week. Then my FTO role within this student union. My master's degree, which I put an overwhelming pressure on myself to get a first throughout the course. So, and then even having that connection with family back home, and I'm someone who needs to talk to my family every day. So that, and then I thought I put that sort of pressure on myself to be able to do everything and do everything perfectly. And I think that of course had to have a burnout, and that happened. And leading up to assignment season, I was very anxious to the point where sometimes I would sit in front of my laptop and 2-3 hours in, there was just one sentence on the screen, and I would be like, what's happening? And the best thing I did then was just to go to well-being service, talk to my faculty member. This is something I'm struggling with. And what they did was they told me about options of extensions, of how you can take it easy, how there's support within the library, faculty support as well. Just I think during that wobble week, students have they sit with the pressure by themselves, and to just reach out, and also reach out to your peers, because everyone's going through the same thing. It won't make you feel alone. And faculty is there to support you, and even if they're not there, if sometimes they can be a little hesitant, and we've seen faculty do that, just be this is what I paid for, I want to get this service. That comes with the well-being service as well. If this is your right, you've paid for it, you've enrolled for your course, ask for the help that you need and make sure that you get it.
Definitely. Holly, I want to turn to you now, and I know social media at university, like we're on social media, and it's like this perfect thing. Everybody's having the best university experience. It seems like no one hits this point of overwhelm. How did you find that? Was there a point at university where you felt overwhelmed and you were, for example, like scrolling through social media, seeing people having this perfect life? Like, how did you kind of, one, handle that feeling of overwhelm, but also just kind of understand that everybody is having, like, we talked around everyone here and everybody has felt these similar emotions. How did you kind of manage your own overwhelm and kind of not feel like you're the only person going through it?
I definitely think with Instagram I do compare like quite a lot. I think everyone does it, but I think a time when I felt really overwhelmed was during like the elections, because at that time it was something like so new to me. I would say I was quite a shy person, and it's just something I would not have thought of doing before. So kind of like trying to push myself to do that, but also being really worried about it. But then also having to juggle like my dissertation and other like assignment deadlines, then also having stuff like through societies to sort out an event. So I think definitely the feeling of like, oh my gosh, I've got all of this stuff on my plate, I'm so busy. And then looking on Instagram and it's like other friends are on holiday or they're having these really like pitch perfect like lives and experiences. So I think for me what helped was just trying to be like, stay in your own lane, like this is what I'm doing, like I'm not like broadcasting all of my stress. So like in a sense Instagram is just like the best bits. And I think just being able to like offload on my friends and like being able to tell them about like what I'm going through, and then there was like quite a few times where they were like, oh yeah, like let me do that for you, or like I can do this, or I can like we can work on this together. And just knowing that I had that support was really helpful, especially when you wake up and you're like, oh I have this and this to do, and then if you didn't do it I'd feel really guilty or not be able to like switch off. So yeah, I think for me it was definitely having like friends, just friends there to be able to talk to, really.
Definitely. And I just wanted to build up, like, I know you said you found kind of the public speaking a little bit nervous, and I know that's like 2 years ago the idea of doing this would like I would have a panic attack and be so scared of doing anything. And I think that's so cool. You've like, for example, I still get nerves. I don't know if it's something you still experience, but the fact you're in your role and you experience those nerves, or you have experienced them, and you still go and do it. I think that's really inspirational. I think that it shows a lot about you as a person, that you're like, you may get nervous sometimes, but like you still wanna do it. You have that drive, and you're showing up, and that's really, really cool of you. I really love that. So nice. Norah, I wanted to turn to you, and I basically wanted to say, like, we're talking about like this idea of like needing help sometimes. And have you ever reached a point where you just like, because I've had it too, like, have you ever reached a point where you're just like, I need some help, like I'm so overwhelmed, and how did that kind of manifest for you, and who did you turn to when you needed that help?
I think that asking for help has always been like a super difficult thing for me. So I think I've only really gained that skill this year, if anything. And the people that I've really mainly turned to are, again, friends, because they're either in similar situations or they're just very understanding. But also I've like built a community of people that I can see that care. It's taken a lot to get to that point, and like even if someone's thinking, oh, I'll never ask for help, like it is literally your right. It's your right to feel good, to feel well. Like it's fine if you ask for help, because at the end of the day we're all humans and we all like need each other. Like someone told me the first thing a human does when they're born is cry, so... Yeah,
I love that. I've never heard of that. I actually love that.
So yeah.
Chike, I wanted to turn to you, and I don't know if you feel this as a guy, but like, from my perspective, like, I've gone through things where I'm feeling these heavy emotions. For example, like, I feel there's this culture sometimes with guys where you can't cry, or you can't be seen crying, or it's hard to stand to your guy mates and say, hey man, I'm just really struggling. How do you, because I've hit points where like, for example, Norah said, where you just like, you need a good cry. And I'll be honest with you, I said this as a guy, like, I had a good cry in my room, got back to an essay and still done it. And it's like, I wouldn't finish that essay if I just hadn't let those feelings out and gone back to my essay and kept going. Yeah. But how do you find as a guy, like, is there strong males in your life or people at university? Is there people you've been able to turn to and just felt comfortable enough to talk about the things that you're going through or those moments of overwhelm?
That's a very good question. I think when you're being brought up as a male, there was a lot of, boys don't cry, that kind of conversation that happens when you're younger, and that kind of, it starts to register in your brain and it starts to affect the way you navigate the world. But I think it's also important for us to take the initiative ourselves to unlearn some of those things as we get older, because let's be honest, like men have as much emotions as anything, and we do feel, and we're still human beings at the end of the day. And then adding that extra layer of being a black man, I think that is, oh, I don't even know if I want to get into that, but that is like another layer of toxic masculinity that is being instilled on you when you're young. And I think for me personally, it took a lot of me going through university and going through school and meeting other people and having those conversations, and even within my family, having those tough conversations and you know, addressing those things. So personally, how I navigate that is when I do feel a certain type of way. I think I am similar. I resonate with what Norah said. I sometimes find it hard to ask for help in a way. So what I do, I have like a group of friends like who are very very dearly to me, and those are the people I do confide in with certain things when I'm going through something, and I talk to them and I vent. I feel like venting is so important, like just getting things off your chest and articulating what is worrying you, because if you just keep it in here, you might not be able to process it until you say it out loud. I think that's so important. So I think if you're having my advice, if you're having challenges, reaching out to people and seeking help, find even if it's just one or two people that you feel safe with, that you feel comfortable with, who you can be honest with and tell them whatever it is that is bothering you. And also, even with that, just I think there's a level of bravery you have to take on. Even for example, like academics and seeking for help within the university, I think it is hard to go up to a stranger that you don't have and be like, I need help, I need assistance with this. But at the same time, it's better to do that in silence. And I think I would like to personally implore people listening to just be brave and just reach out to someone, because at the end of the day, your well-being is the most important. And if you are suffering from something that you keep it to yourself, that does not help anyone, does not help you, doesn't help your mental health, it doesn't help anybody. So just take that one step and be brave and seek help.
I feel like everyone like deserves to be like happy. Like, and it sounds really like almost simplistic, because like everybody deserves to be happy. Like everyone deserves to, you know, have a good university experience. And like if you're not having a good university experience, like there's ways we can improve that. There's ways the SUBU can do it. There's ways you can go out there and do it. And Holly, I want to turn to you first. And we're talking about this idea of community. This idea of having those people around you who you can turn to, you can get help from. What's SUBU like as a community, and what ways, for example, like someone's just started university, they want to find their people, they want to feel seen. What ways could they try and find that? And it may be a process of trying a few different things, but what things would you recommend to them through SUBU?
So I'd say that overall SUBU is such a warm and welcoming community. There's so much to get involved in. I feel like, especially when you come to university, this is your place. Like, no matter what, if you've got a niche interest, if you haven't got an interest, like there is so much available that you can just dip your toe into, and you might absolutely love it, or you might be like, oh, it's not for me, I'm going to try something else. I think for me, I did go down the clubs and societies route, and that was so beneficial for me. And I think when you reflect on stuff, it's like, oh my god, if I didn't go to this one taster, I don't think I'd be here now. Or that there's so many like kind of weird things where you organically meet someone, and then they end up being like your closest friend, or you end up living with them. So I think again, just trying to push yourself and like going to these new things is really, really important. Yeah. There's also more kind of other roles in SUBU, like your part-time reps, especially.
No, it's okay. I wanted to ask you a question then. You said about finding societies. What's been your society at uni? Have you found one where you're like, I made my like this is a part of me I found at university? Has there been a society for you?
Yeah, so for me, I joined the Ballroom and Latin Dance Society. So
she's the coach.
Yeah.
Wow. No one told me about that before, so I'm learning this on the spot.
So yeah, I'd done it for a few years before uni, and then obviously with COVID, it was a no. So definitely going. I was super, super nervous. I was thinking, oh my god, is everyone going to be really good, and I'm going to be rubbish, and all of that kind of stuff. But it was definitely such a confidence builder as well for me, because I was able to go really kind of learn the like kind of the dance that I loved, and like this thing I was really passionate about. Like I loved learning all of like the movements and really like getting my head stuck into it, but then also meeting other people like that as well, and we could like learn the routines together or talk about our similar experiences. So I think just going and organically meeting people with similar interests was really, really beneficial to me. And then naturally we'll go, oh, let's go for a drink, or should we go to this? So I think it's really, really good to get involved in that kind of things.
Fatima, I want to turn to you now. So I know I've seen some things on Subu, and I was looking through Subu yesterday, and I saw you had a previous role before this. What's it been like getting involved with those different roles you're able to get through Subu? And has it brought you a sense of purpose or helped your well-being, being able to find positions that you really care about and different roles within the student union?
Yeah, so like I mentioned earlier, I was the Asian Arab Ethnic Minority Officer. That's a role people can still run for, just a pitch. But
a little bit of a plug, yeah.
But it was a little difficult managing that with my masters, but I was able to organize these two major events, which was really fun. And of course it gives you a sense of purpose, because you're like, a whole community of students, like an Indian community, they lacked that sort of event. They had that last year, but they had to wait an entire year, and if it's not possible for them this year, that would be another 2 years before they have an event. And I was like, okay, I'm set on this, I need to do this. And even though there were hurdles in play before the event, even right before the event, that I could have possibly called it off, we had to make it happen for the community. And even through the role, I was able to talk to a lot of students, learn a lot from the sort of struggles that students face. And it's just like Chike said, giving that form of comfort and reassurance to another fresher who's coming in, or even other students who have there are mature students who are massively struggling. They have children in the picture, sometimes they don't have accommodations to pile that up with, and then on top of that, we had students sometimes sleep in campus because of cost of living crisis and all of that, just to talk to them. And then within our community, people we pitched in money and we sort of found them accommodation. It's just these little things that it gives you a bigger purpose than just yourself, and sometimes it pushes you to think about a lot more other people, and sometimes just maybe learn that the university experience is not just you in that sense. It's a bigger thing. And I think the student union sort of emphasizes that we are a collective, and sometimes in the real world it becomes too individualistic, but we can always go back to the student union, and it's a proper community, and it's very much a collective.
Definitely. Yeah, Chike, I want to turn to you now. So we're going to do a hypothetical situation.
Okay.
I'm a new student, I've just arrived at university, and I'm feeling a bit lonely. I want to get out of my room, I want to try and meet some people, and I'm turning to you. What is one thing that I should try? I should get out of my comfort zone, and I should try at the student union. What one thing would you kind of recommend to me to do?
I think right out the gate, the first thing I would recommend is that you attend the Freshers' Fair. It is the big welcome event we have for students, because not only do you come and get freebies, which is good,
Yeah.
but you get everything that the student union offers is on display that day. You have the club societies, and you can go around seeing what they do, and see something piques your interest. And all the students are there at the event, and you could start a conversation with someone from there, make friends. I feel that is the best way to put your foot in, I'd say. That would be my best advice to you to come for the Freshers' Fair.
Definitely. Okay, Norah, what would yours be? What would you say? We're going off hypothetical here. I'm a student. What are you saying to me? What do you think?
I would say come to any of our events that really interest you, because we have fresher events lined up. Literally any of one of them. If you don't like the partying and drinking ones, then just come to we're doing the international speed vending. Yeah, that's what's called. There's so many things that's going on, and I think the reason why I plug the events is mainly because you don't have to have a friend to go to them. You can meet people there, because some people will be by themselves as well, and you can meet other people in your communities by just speaking to them at these events.
Definitely. Okay. The last thing, because I know you guys are crazy busy, and it's gonna you're working so hard to create these freshers events. So the last thing I want to say to you guys, I'm gonna leave it on a nice note. Like, tell me, and we're gonna go through all you guys. Like, what has been university 40 years time? You're looking back and you're like, this season of my life, like, this is the biggest memory. Like, what has been your most favourite moment? It can be to do with student union. It can be to do with any area of the university experience. But what has been your moment? Norah, I'm gonna turn to you again. What has been your favourite moment at university?
Because my university experience was in COVID, so my third year was like really the year that I was like, let me do things. My friends set up this debate society, and I was like, I'll just go just to support you. The things that we used to debate about in that society were strange.
Yeah. Give me an example. What kind of thing?
And there's only one example I can think of, and I don't want to say it.
Someone's going to come along, they can like, it's another plug to it, come along to the debate society and you can find out.
But it was just really funny, and it was, because we would do like serious topics, but then we would end it on a really weird, funny topic. I can give you one actually. So, would you rather fight off a horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses?
That's a deep question. For anyone listening, like, if you're left with anything, have a think about that question.
Yeah, so that was just fun, just joining in with their society.
Definitely. Okay, Fatima, what was yours? What's been your favourite moment of university? I can go to someone else if you need
maybe like, so it's mostly like after university I would go back to my house and we would have like chai time with my friends, and it was just after like a very long day, just a lot happening. I know I can look forward to that like little chai slot time, and we would have cake together and biscuits and chai, and it would happen every day for like an hour.
Oh wow, I love that.
We were very religious about it.
No, I love that. How about you, Holly? What's been your favourite moment?
I think mine has been probably like going to the summer ball. I've been 2 years, but I think it's just such a nice time, and I remember being like at the one just gone, I was just so carefree. I'd submit my disc the day before, and it was just like such a nice feeling of like release and being like, oh my god, I'm done, I can just enjoy myself now. And it, like all of my friends went, so it was really like
definitely.
Really
so for anyone who's just joined university who's listening to this, can you give a small description? What is the summer ball?
So the summer ball is a really kind of cool and unique event, especially to Bournemouth University. It's like a day festival that's put on by the Students' Union for all of the students, so there's loads of different acts. There's also like rides that you can go on and different food stands, so it's a really cool like day festival that you can go to with all of your friends, and then you can go to the old fire station after.
And wow, for sure, I think that's my favourite moment. So the year before last, there's this thing called the survivors photo, and at 5 o'clock in the morning, anyone who survives it, you guys obviously know, but they basically take a photo at 5 o'clock in the morning. And basically, I did it a couple of years ago, and I like made friends with the surf society. So we got some surfboards out afterwards, and we surfed by the pier. And like that feeling of like surfing at like 6 o'clock in the morning with surf society who I randomly met at the summer pool was like the best moment I think I've had at university. It was like this complete euphoria moment of like I was in the water staring up, still a bit like hungover and drunk, being like this is university experience for me. This is like why I'm here. It's the best thing. Yeah. Okay, I want to end with you. What has been your favourite moment of university? Tell me.
I feel like mine is less fun now.
So I need to put it down. What's been your moment? Tell me.
I think mine was a little bit after university, kind of like the end of my university experience. It was during graduation. It was doing the speeches on behalf of the student union. I felt like that was a really like great moment. That's something I look back on very often, because right before I went on, I remember I was so nervous. I was actually physically shaking. Because the way that the stage is built, like you can see the entire audience. There was thousands of people in there, and I had to give a speech. I was nervous, but I got through and I did it really well. And I remember after the ceremony, I was outside of the event hall, and I had a lot of students, both students and parents, coming on to me saying that like they found my speech really inspiring, that they felt really touched, and that just kind of it just made me feel like I did a great job. And I look back and I watch that video back very often, and it's something I remember very, very fondly.
I love that. You would have sent this as well. I want to check out that video. I'm sure it must be like the most inspiring video I've ever seen. It's like a TED talk on it. But guys, I want to say thank you so much for doing this. Generally, like it's been an absolute pleasure getting to know you all better, and I appreciate the vulnerable moments as well as the laughs we've had. I've generally had a great time. So thank you all for doing this. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Had fun too.
Yeah.
It was fun.